You're about to witness 3 total strangers.
A musician, an artist, and a business professional.
We brought them together to talk about a really hard subject that they had no clue what it was before they got here.
All in the hopes that we can teach you, America, that we can discuss the most controversial topics.
Without being jerks to each other. Imagine that! So stick around, watch the fireworks, because we're about to go live. Welcome to the Arts of Dispute. The only show where you can be friended and offended all in the same doggone hour. You know, you've experienced, you're like flipping along, watching the channel surfing, you're like, oh, this looks interesting, yeah. I think I like what they're saying, yeah. I literally hate everything that they all just said. These people are lowlifes. I don't even know why I'm still watching.
Stop talking about my page.
Well, Chris, we got a hot topic today. We got a lively panel here I'm really looking forward to. But you know what?
We got a tough problem in this America.
America, we have a problem. We have a problem. It's called the zero to Nazi effect.
Uh-oh.
That's what we refer to this as, right? Y'all have all, you've experienced it. You've experienced it. If you've been on social media, you've experienced it. You post something, you make a comment. We were kind of just talking about it before we went live there. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to experience the zero to Nazi effect on this comment I'm making on Anthony's feed here. It could happen. You post something, maybe a little controversial, and boom, it blows up. People start going nuts. Flame wars, trolling, unfriending, blocking. That is the zero to Nazi effect. Mm-hmm. It is the length of time it takes to go from having a conversation to, you're a Nazi. I will now go outside, set fire to your car, slap your mama, and
You want to slap my mama?
well, Chris, you know, we have that problem here in America, and that's what we're working to solve.
It happens to us even.
We catch some flack.
We catch some flack. Well, sometimes our panel doesn't really represent the entirety for the topic, but what I got to say to you is every viewpoint is represented, and if it's not represented here, it should be represented in our group, and if it's not in our group, please go over to our group, leave it, so that we can all gain that knowledge. That's what we're here for.
I guarantee you, I can look right now and tell you, you know, this is not a woman's point of view on this panel.
Right? No women? There's no women here? No?
It doesn't matter what the show is, we missed some demographic somewhere, and somebody's gonna grab it back.
Absolutely. And so, you know, these conversations should be encouraged, and they shouldn't be enlightening, and they shouldn't be empowering, and so powered with new knowledge to go on and spread and have that viewpoint. So that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, our topic today, we are discussing under God and whether that belongs in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Is there an issue there with the establishment of religion? Is that freedom religion? Is that the state establishing religion? We're going to dive into what the thoughts are, but before we dive in, we're going to jump into some shameless plugs here.
One of my favorite parts. Yes.
The exorbitant pay package that our guests get to experience from being on the show.
Oh my.
All the wine they can drink and a shameless plug.
That was a great benefit.
I mean, it got us here. So.
Right. There we go. So first up here to my left, Mr. Anthony Ford. And your business name, A. Ford Fine Properties. Right on.
Welcome.
Got your own website, anthonyford.net. That's where they can check you out. One funny thing about Anthony that most people don't know, he left us blank.
Ooh.
Right, ready to get
roasted. He wasn't in there
huh?
for the speech.
Yeah.
I'm a good sport.
Yes. So a little known fact about Anthony is that he is a world-renowned cockroach racer. He breeds and raises the fastest cockroaches on the planet. It's a very competitive sport. Yeah. You know, and they don't live long, so I mean, it's like you're constantly training up the next guy.
Absolutely. See, it was the way I grew up.
You got little cockroach treadmills.
A lot of generations to worry about.
They were all, you know, we had a lot of roaches in our house, so I started putting them to work because I couldn't get rid of them. Smart. I mean, have you ever sprayed a roach and they don't die?
Oh yeah.
Or
They
you
run
see it?
faster.
They just get a little cross with
Don't
you.
bring them here.
No.
Bring him here.
It's a
That's a
sport.
home thing.
Yeah, it's a
It's
sport.
like crack. And you give it to them.
Yeah. You got little cockroach treadmills
Yeah.
that you put them on.
Keep them
Conditioning. Yeah. It's a very competitive sport. Next up, Todd Muñoz. Right on, Todd. Rojo Todd.
Yeah, that's me.
Like it. And got your own website as well, rojotodd.com.
Yes.
Right
That's
on.
ROJO. For anybody who doesn't speak Spanish.
Yes. Rojo. Todd. There's 2 D's.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Neither of them are
phonetically.
silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you pronounce both of them.
You have to pronounce both of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Todd.
One funny thing about Todd that most people don't know, he likes to wear his socks outside more than being shooed outside.
Because you get to feel like what you're standing on, but also before you go back inside, you get to peel that layer of grime directly from your foot. It's not there anymore.
Instead of being barefooted.
Right, and like my like washer and dryer are right next to like my back door, so like it's just right directly into the washer. Don't have to
That's a
worry
little bit more weird. That's more
There you
weird
go.
than me racing cockroaches.
Next up, Corey Levine.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, buddy. Welcome.
Yeah. All right, and your artist name is Robin.
Yes, with an
And
X.
RXBYN. All right. And they can find you on SoundCloud, Instagram, Facebook, all those. SoundCloud.com/RXBYN official. And
Bam! I thought you were gonna do it. I didn't mean to signal for it.
I waited. I was holding off for you there, just in case you thought I forgot.
I thought you did.
We'll have it on the screen. Yeah, that was like $20 right there. Just the
Okay.
graphics guy just sent me
$10 a
bill.
graphic.
My people call your
Yeah.
people. We'll just.
There we go.
Invoice me.
One funny thing about you that most people don't know, I act out full movie scenes in my bedroom when I am alone.
Wow.
Nice.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That was the
no.
most
What a
recent.
godsend.
Wow.
Not gonna do it here, but yeah, that's,
Say not.
I don't know why.
Spelling that
I
out.
find myself wanting
He
an
needs a
acting
refill.
career.
He'll do it. He'll do it.
Right,
I find myself wanting an acting career when I'm alone in my room at 4 a.m. in the morning.
There
It's
you go.
really, it's really interesting.
That's the only
thing.
time I want one too.
Yeah, nothing past that. You won't catch me between 8 and like
Right on.
9.
I love it. All right, so we got this topic we need to dive into, guys. Give me your 1 minute kind of bullet point thoughts on this. We'll just kind of go down the line here. Should the words "under God" be in the Pledge of Allegiance? What are your thoughts, Anthony?
I think yes. But I think it's relative to who your God is, and I think that's where the controversy comes in. But I think that everybody believes in a higher power, no matter where you are on the spiritual spectrum. If you're religious, if you're not religious, if you're conscious or not conscious, if you're awake and not awake, whatever the case is. So I think that under all measures, God is superior, whoever your God is, and so yeah, everything is under God.
All right.
I'm pretty iffy on it because, like, on the other hand, like, it is something that is written and read very literally and often, not taught to kids in ways where, like, that whole definition is really explained or extrapolated. So I feel like you end up kind of indoctrinating kids. I'm going to go with no.
Okay. Great.
Like Anthony said, it just depends on your definition of God. But I think that is the reason I can be swayed. I'm a little in the middle. I'm not too sure. Everybody has their own definition, their own idea, and it's hard to tell somebody what God is, who God is. So that's a tough one.
All right. Very good. Well, let's dive in a little bit. One of the kind of interesting nuggets about that phrase, under God, is that so hot I got the basement. They're bringing the heat. Better stick around and see what's gonna happen next. Very good. Well, let's dive in a little bit. One of the kind of interesting nuggets about that phrase, under God, is that historians tell us that it was inspired from the Gettysburg Address and Abraham Lincoln, where he said that the nation shall, under God, have a new birth of freedom. Right? And so the pledge was a bit of an homage, so to speak, to that great moment in our nation's history, right? That we just went through the bloodiest experience in our nation's history, right? Fighting to preserve the Union, fighting to end slavery, and that there would be a birth of a new freedom, right? And so, considering the Gettysburg Address and that the words in our pledge very likely were inspired by that, does that add any kind of significance to considering it in whether it belongs, that type of thing for you guys?
Not for me personally.
Because you hate Lincoln?
Exactly.
I'm actually not a fan of Mike. I'm actually not a fan.
I mean, if we want to get to the
I'm playing.
No, really, it's just, again, it's an entirely context-based thing. It's simply, this isn't something that we tell people before they take this pledge. And again, if we are really going to chalk up this pledge to be what it is, a pledge of allegiance, you are agreeing to take a pledge for this country, etc., or whatever your pledge of allegiance may be, I feel like you should be fully aware of everything you are saying, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that each piece of it, and I do think that there should be something taught in schools. I think that our pledge of allegiance should be something that is dissected before you agree to consciously take this every day. And so maybe if it was extrapolated upon, I may consider it more. And even in the context of like different gods or whatever your higher power is extrapolated more, I'd consider it more. But just because it is written so in stone, enchanted and recited so in stone, it just doesn't move me.
I have to agree with Todd. I feel like I love the idea of preserving history. I think it's beautiful and it's meaningful and it makes sense. However, as we evolve as people, as a nation, it can't stay that way forever. It can be written somewhere in someone's glass case in a museum that no one can access unless you have, that kind of power. But
No
if we're gonna
display?
say, no public display.
No?
You can only see it if you've, at least gone through billions of dollars, something like that. But I feel like if we're gonna tell people that, we're a country where you can be free, if we're gonna invite them in to recite that pledge with us, we have to open that up to being where they can interpret it to something that they are comfortable with. It's not fair for us to preserve something that happened so long ago and say, if you're going to come here, this is what you serve now. I kind of feel like it's not exactly saying that, but it feels that way, or it could easily feel that way for somebody who wasn't educated enough or wasn't, on that level of understanding.
Anthony?
I mean, I would have to agree as well. I think that when you think about the context in which he orchestrated the Pledge of Allegiance, then I can understand how it's kind of being forced upon, if you will. But then again, we're evolving as a culture, as a people. So I really feel like you can treat it whatever it means to you. I mean, because that's really what it's all about. So while I do agree with y'all, I also still stand, I guess, independent in the fact that I feel like everything is relative. Everything is. So
You should see my art.
So let me ask you guys a question then. You're in real estate. No matter how long the building has stood, if you intend to remodel the building, does it behoove you to understand the architect's design? In other words, you want to take a wall out. Do you need to know if that's a load-bearing wall?
Yeah.
Right? So the analogy I'm making that I want to present to you guys, because both y'all kind of had this angle on, it's after a while, let it go. It's history, what I put it in black, that kind of thing. The founding fathers who built the construct, the load-bearing walls, if you will, of our design of government.
They're gone. Sorry.
Their words and laws are not.
Politely putting it.
They had an opinion in the process of building the government, and they expressed this thought. The earliest form, and I talk about it on many occasions, so you can actually see it in past shows, but where they had this thought process. They said that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And that's a whole interesting, fun discussion. But nevertheless, all men are created equal. And by that creative process, the very fact that you're created is what endows you with certain inalienable rights. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And that governments are instituted by men to ensure these inalienable rights. So government only exists to ensure unalienable rights that only exist because you are created by God. Now, in that statement, they didn't say created by Jehovah God, specific to Judeo-Christianity. Right? They left it generic because they just left a place of oppression where you had to follow the Church of England or it was a bad day for you. Right? But they definitely had a concept of asserting the importance of God in that process, because for them it was you were only created equal if there was a God who created you, and the governments only need to exist to ensure those rights. So, knowing that, this kind of goes back to my, regardless of how long it is there a significance in knowing the load-bearing walls, if you will, in the thought process of forming the government, and does that change your opinion on whether the phrase should be in the Declaration, or not in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I think we got a break coming up. Yeah.
And
we'll answer that when we get back.
And we'll answer that. Thank you, Chris.
No problem.
And she's waving signs at me in the background to let me know we have a hard break, and I just didn't process it in my head. She was.
I got your back.
She was fanning the camera as far as I knew. Laura, our set director, is passionately fanning the camera. I appreciate her dedication to keeping the cameras cool. We have a hard break to take. You guys chew on that idea. We'll be right back after commercial break, and we'll dive into that.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks.
Do you have a sick roof? Well, DR Roofing Services can help. We will examine your roof, diagnose the problem, and prescribe a solution. Does your home need a facelift? DR Roofing Services offers a variety of general contracting services to get your home happy and healthy again. Honest, reliable, and trustworthy. DR Roofing Services. We make house calls.
The Art of Dispute and all other artists recorded by Maddox Studios. By artists, for artists.
Welcome back to the show, The Art of Dispute. We have a fun conversation going on. We're talking about a pretty heavy-duty topic. Under God, in the plan. Does it belong? Toss it out. What are y'all's thoughts? That's what we're diving into.
Before we dive in, man, shout out to Grain Cellar.
Oh, look at you go.
Yeah.
Way to remember our sponsors.
Yeah. Well, my cup's full.
Yes, his cup almost runneth over.
Almost. Right on the edge there,
Yeah, the Grain Cellar out in Humble. Preston out there, man. Cool shop, man. If you ever want to know how to brew your own beer, make your own wine, make your own cheese, he does it all, man. He's a cool cat. Okay. Super nice guy.
We got a link up here for his website, right?
Yeah. Okay. We got it on the screen.
Gotta support the sponsors.
Yeah. Cool guy, man. So anyway, he provides all the alcohol. So
yeah, cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks.
The Grain Cellar.
Cheers. Bam.
Yeah.
All the way around.
There you go.
Yeah. So before the break, I asked a question. I said, I gave some history on some viewpoints and all that sort of thing, Declaration of Independence. It does the concepts of why they believe government should exist, being connected to created, and obviously connected to the concept of a God, if not a specific God. That existed before the foundation of the government. Does that play a factor in? Like, if they believe that, your rights extend from the fact that you're created, does acknowledging under God, in a generic sense, is that a violation of the Establishment Clause? Should it be allowed or got rid of?
So for me, it still doesn't quite cut it. Mostly because, again, this was there are a lot of fine-tuned things in history where it's like, well, if you look at from what they were all really experiencing and going through at these points and the ways that they really thought about things back then, does it all matter? And the end book is yes, because they did end up building a house that we all live in, essentially, to further elaborate on your point.
Thank you for working with analogy.
I love a good analogy. But my biggest issue is that the foundation of the house is faulty. And if your foundation is screwed, even if it's a load-bearing wall, it's still not going to help you. You're still going to have a lot of issues in your house. And eventually you may have to sit back and look at all the plans and how the house was built and all of those little architecture details that they put into it.
Start thinking about that bulldozer. Start again.
Yeah, eventually you're going to have to rebuild this house. And maybe you do include some of those great, maybe they had great Corinthian columns that you really fell in love with, and you can pull those right back up. But in the end, I feel like a lot of it comes back to you're going to have to rebuild this house. In one way or another, it's probably going to need to be rebuilt.
Okay.
I got an interesting point, but it seemed like you had something.
I spoke her.
No.
You might change my mind.
No. Okay.
Governor?
I think I just made.
I just had the chipmunks, the Chip and Dale. I'm way old.
Chip and Dale.
The two little,
Everyone knows
the two little chipmunks. There. No, after you.
Yeah.
I insist.
Yeah. So me or you?
No, go ahead. I'm
Oh
gonna.
my God. Okay. I was going to say, you use the analogy, you start this piece off with the analogy of real estate.
Right.
Low-bearing walls, foundation you brought in, that sort of thing. I do restorations, flip houses.
Numbers on the screen.
Yeah. Which camera we at? I'm going to do So my mindset is a little different because we all, are entrepreneurs and we live what we do. So I can see it's like this. Sometimes, although things need to be rebuilt, you still find that the things that were established are still essential. Mm-hmm. So I think that the fact that it says under God, it's still appropriate, but then you just switch or you change or, better word, you evolve into what your God is. And then when you start to think about, let's just think on a universal and a spiritual standpoint. Like, let's take God out of a person or a man. Let's think of him as a spirit, as he is. Then he's in everything. So as you awake, or as because I think some people look at it from a religious standpoint, some people look at it from a spiritual, some people look at, somebody on set was talking about how it's scientific. So having said that, when you look at all of that, we still talking about the same person. It's just your perspective. So under God is really one of those blanket statements. So if I was flipping a house, whether I rebuilt the house, demolished it, and built something brand new, I still use that land, which is the ultimate foundation. So the ultimate foundation for me is still everything is done under God. God created the universe. Now he may be diminished in some people's eyes if you're religious, and he may be more catastrophic and more, he may be larger than your God if you're religious, if you're scientific, or if you're thinking spiritual. But at any given moment, you're still saying, you know what, there's somebody who made me. There's a higher being. And so if a government is putting together something that says under God, then it truly is really under God, even if they don't understand what they're truly saying. Does that make sense?
I like your analogy with the earth, the land. That was a great analogy. Yeah,
I think my only issue at that point really is
I love the fact that he doesn't back down.
I can't.
I love it.
So my only real issue at that point is is that you have some people who are just outright atheists. And by definition of being atheist, it is a rejection of a higher power. It's a straight up rejection of a God, and by including the word itself, God, you have excluded anybody who by definition does not subscribe to that concept.
So, and actually to your point, in which way I've been thinking this whole show, because mostly atheists, sometimes agnostic, you know what I mean? Like, we all have that moment. But, you know, that to me, if I were to think about like what I would worship as a god, as an atheist, I would think it would be like my family and friends, because this is my support ring. These are the people I love with everything. You know what I mean? So to just put to his respect, I mean, God, I could see is more of like the people around me, and you know, I don't know, but I mean, but that's kind of what he's getting at. I don't know that I completely agree with it being in a federal thing that you say, and you know, I don't think that we should have one at all. To myself, I think that we should go back to a family crest, the family statement, and I'll say that all day long, me and my family. But you know,
I'm torn on kind of the angle to go with this thought. There's one side of me that says it was we mentioned, he and I were talking during the break recently in Alaska. There was a lady who went through some pretty significant effort, right? As you can imagine, like the normal day in, day out schmo would not be immediately on board with someone from the Church of Satan giving an invocation at a city council meeting, and you know, finishing her opening statement with, you know, "Hail Satan," right?
I've actually agreed with more Satanists than I have Christians.
Well, I mean, it's humanism at the end of the day.
That's really what I'm describing.
Yeah. So, I'm surprised, you know, like the group where this was posted in, because I'm very much the odd man out in this particular group. Largely non-believing, you know, atheist, agnostic people. And my response was, cool, that's the way it should be. Okay? We get so butthurt over every darn thing. And it's on all sides. I'm not saying like the you know, tried and true Sunday, everyday Christians have got it dialed in. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying on all of the entire spectrum, from firmest believer to firmest unbeliever, everybody gets so dang butthurt over the littlest stuff. Yeah. It's like, if I'm sitting at city council and she wanted to come forward and open the city council meeting and do her whole thing and say, "Hail Satan," I'm like, I don't believe like you, and I don't care.
I do it every day.
I do it every day. I do feel
amen.
like there's a pretty significant difference, though, in an instance of like a lady pulling in, you know, a welcoming in one city council meeting and kind of doing something for herself for it, and something that we are putting in the mouths of every citizen, you know, under the flag.
Sure, and that's a valid point. That's absolutely a valid point. I would say that, again, it kind of goes back to, for me, the founding fathers saying, we're building a house. Mm-hmm. And we paid the ultimate price. We were treason. We committed treason. Mm-hmm. If the war didn't go right, they were all straight up dead. And by and large, they were a lot of wealthy people. So when they signed their name on that dotted line, they were putting their family's name, their fortune, everything on that dotted line. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey.
Sure wasn't done lightly, right?
Right. It sure as heck wasn't done lightly. I mean, they literally joked about hanging, right? When they were signing it.
Mm-hmm. I think we joked about that about this show.
Right? And so it's like, hey, look, we're building a house. And out of respect for independence, we're being generic in our reference. Mm-hmm. But they had a definite concept. And in their group, they definitely had people that weren't believers, and, you know, I mean, Thomas Paine, hardcore atheist, right? He was up there playing with all of them, high-fiving, coming up with stuff, and arguing his case, right?
Goes back to not being
butthurt. Exactly.
That's kind of what I was saying with, you know, look, man, I can find find a way to
Yeah,
relate
for
to
sure.
that, you know?
And so, I mean, like, from my perspective, I feel like they were like, look, we have a belief and we're building a house. And because we're cool, we're going to do it in a way that allows you to come over and hang out and have all the freedom you want and everything else. But, man, stop getting butthurt over us saying the word God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's kind of like my put it in 21st century lingo of how they expressed it back then.
What you think, man?
What do you think?
Yes.
I've taken in 4 different points.
You've changed your mind like 4 times. Hey,
No joke. I
that,
was like,
we experience that all the time, man.
as I said earlier, I can be swayed. So for somebody like me, listening to all of those, everybody makes sense. It makes sense that in the analogy of real estate or housing, if the foundation is broken, it's going to need to be rebuilt. It makes sense that that's not always the case. It makes sense that, you know, if we're starting something that's inclusive to others, then why would we get so butthurt about the smallest of things if we're letting you come and enjoy what we've built here? So with that being said, one, I don't know, but what I do know is that maybe as a society we have something more to work on than just what we say and how we phrase it. I think it becomes a bigger thing of, you know, should we say under God? I mean, more if something is what makes you as a person comfortable. I could say God, and it doesn't. As someone as a spiritual person, I'm not religious. I never claim to be religious because I feel like everyone's definition of religious is different, and I don't take everything from Christianity. I don't take everything from you know. Muslims or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But as a spiritual person, it doesn't bother me for someone to come and pray to God. It doesn't bother me for someone to come and pray to Allah or for someone to come and pray to you know, their family if that's what they do. So I want the respect to not believe just as much as you want the respect to believe. Exactly. So, and it gets to be a point of where does the line get drawn? What do we do about the bigger picture? Because in the bigger scheme of things, while God or whoever you believe in may be the bigger picture, we as a people are the bigger picture. Your God can be anyone or anything. For example, I noticed. I'm sorry. No, it's our action. I'm trying to help you out here. Yeah. No, you're good. I noticed you said he earlier when you were referring to God. Some people say she.
She, right. And exactly. I refer to she sometimes as well.
Exactly.
It depends on.
It happens, but you wouldn't have known if you only heard him say he.
Right.
I can't get butthurt because he did that. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that butthurt, to use your word. I can't. It's not something that I personally think it's a big deal. Like on TV. I think it's a way bigger conversation, but overall, I think it's just something that we have to work on as a society. We need to be on the same page if we're gonna allow all these people and these different cultures and beliefs to come in and enjoy what was built here years ago when there was only God in their minds. Yeah, we have to make it to where, I guess, not evolve it, but evolve it in the sense that
we're gonna call it inclusive. It needs to be that way.
Yeah, something like that. Well, but without saying you have to do this. Not forcing. It should just be a spoken upon, understood thing. You don't have to get hurt that I feel this way. I don't have to be upset that you feel that way. And of course, that's easier said than done. But it goes back. It's a full circle in my mind. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Ooh, so hot! I got the vapors. They're bringing the heat. Better stick around and see what's gonna happen next.
How much does it cost you to watch TV? The average household pays between $100 and $150 every month. Finally fed up with the rising cost of cable and satellite? Cut the cord and start watching the channels you want at a fraction of the cost. With IXQ TV, you'll have access to thousands of live TV channels, including sports, movies, news, premium networks, kids channels, and even local channels for as low as $39 a month. Stream in HD on your TV, tablet, phone, or even computer with multiple devices streaming at the same time. IXQ TV requires no contracts or credit checks, no installation or cancellation fees, no bogus surcharges or hidden fees. $39 a month means $39 a month. Say goodbye to high cable bills forever. Visit mycablebillstinks.com today.
I mean, I'm just the kind of person that I feel like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So
And make profit.
there you go. And open up a lemonade stand.
Right.
Okay. So, having said that, if they mean it for one thing and you mean it for another, then what's wrong with that? Exactly. And that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, as we evolve as a people, I mean, I say it like this. There's plenty of definitions for one word. We look in the dictionary, there's 1, 2, 3 meanings, sometimes more than that. And so, who's to say that when I know what you meant when you said God, but I can still use that same word and mean something different. Yeah. And it's okay. And I think that's what makes us unique as people. We can all disagree but still come under the same umbrella, still live together harmoniously, and that's what it's about.
Have drinks.
Yeah.
Interesting, and it's a subtlety of simple words that I think makes for a really fun conversation. And when you get into the establishment clause, and that the government won't unduly favor one religion over another, right? And so then you start looking at, does under God unduly favor one religion over another? And it certainly doesn't establish or unduly favor a religion, right? But it does favor some religion over other religions. So it's like you get into the subtle nuances of, does that qualify, right? And it's like the difference of freedom of religion versus freedom from religion, right? We're ensured freedom of religion, not freedom from religion, right? So it's like as soon as you start enforcing that, oh no, there can be no instance or mention of any religion, then you're enforcing your own religion.
Yeah. I want to throw out that my only, and again, the only thorn in my side about this, because I pretty much do agree with literally everything that was just said.
I love, like, to back up what Anthony said. I love that you keep coming back to it.
I really have agreed on pretty much everything you've said.
No, but you're going to speak your
the only thorn I have on my side about it is that this is something that we do force people to say before they fully understand everything that they are agreeing to.
Do we that anymore? I mean, we're not saying
I've actually still seen news reports where supposedly schools where kids have the choice to say it or not are still being sent to detention, are still being punished.
We said Michael Jackson, please.
Yes, I do.
We gotta say that offset.
I haven't said the actual Pledge of Allegiance in school since.
Yeah, I don't even know if
it's maybe 9th.
It may have been a while. Entire show.
I mean, maybe,
no, there are some places.
So we were still saying it.
And I'm a lot older than y'all.
Okay, so one more question. If, for example, how we were saying we hadn't said the Pledge of Allegiance in a while, doesn't that beg the question, like,
we say before sports games, right?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. But go ahead.
But see, in the youth, in places where it should probably start, if we're not doing that anymore, doesn't that mean it's probably time to
abandon?
Yeah, revamp it, something. And maybe not like so you can worship a crayon or something. But I mean,
I think that there's a whole interesting question about the appropriateness of pledging allegiance.
I said that earlier. Yes, indeed. I don't want to do it.
Listen, I mean, like,
on the bigger scale, yes.
I'm like, listen, don't get me wrong. I love Americans.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right? I definitely think we got the best game going on.
That's why we have to do this today
in the world. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So I want to be clear, saying that up front. However, I also can't stand government. I loathe government.
Like a true American.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, if you look at the original,
how we started.
If you look at the original setup, they're like, look, government should be small and it should be local, right? And the federal government for them was, it shouldn't exist, and if it has to exist, it should barely exist, right? That was their concept. All the power was in state government, not federal government. That changed with the Civil War. Right.
Yep.
Ultimately, that was a piece of what was being fought over. For a lot of people, it wasn't about slavery. It was about the federal government saying that they had to behave a certain way, and the states are going, no, the people in this type of government.
I'll even go full-scale conspiracy and say that Lincoln used slavery as a flag to go, hey, look over here, and then took all of the rights of the states.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that he was a racist.
And
Absolutely, and a slave owner.
Yeah.
And so, Sam, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
on my
No, I'm
opinion,
with
yeah.
you. So I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, I don't like government. I don't want it to be big in the first place. So the idea that you're wanting me to pledge allegiance to this entity that I don't even like in the first place has kind of got like my thorn on the side.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I feel it.
Right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be opposed to one that was a little more, for the people.
All in the context, to be clear, because I don't want it to come out in case I ever run for government.
Like that's gonna happen after all these.
Oh, I know.
It's too late already.
There's no way. No.
I don't like the government, but I'm running for governor.
That's not happening.
Yeah. They would just play back any series of clips.
We've seen
And my
it
whole
from
campaign
135.
would be
Go to
tanked.
your Facebook page.
My favorite way to make decisions is just to slowly limit my options. You know?
Smart man.
It's like all we got left is this, so we're just
That's why I
gonna.
tattooed my hands.
Well, we got to wrap up, guys. Freaking great discussion, and man, this is one of these talks where I'm like, we just keep going. I'm like, I
definitely.
really get into it.
Great show,
And
guys.
all
Thanks
of
for
you
coming
guys
out.
have voiced some really cool angles on the subject, and I really love that you all of you, I mean each of you, really kind of have continued to stick with your guns and come back to arguing your point of view, which is fantastic.
It's an art.
That is, yeah.
The art of dispute, my
It's
friend.
almost
Thank
like
you.
wasn't even
Wait a second.
Sound effects, yeah.
Hey man,
Yeah.
are you paying for those?
Oh, edit that part out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jakari, man, hey, we got to hear some mad tunes, man. I heard you practicing earlier, man. I want to hear what you're up to. So tell us what you're about to play and where we can find it, and take it away.
Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Robin, and I'm going to be performing Issa Vibe from my brand new This Is Summer EP. You can find it on soundcloud.com/RXBYN official. Where the sun, heat it up, light it up, wanna run. Let's start it up, have some fun, grab this max. Let's hit the road while we're young. Cause I'm the one, are you the one? Don't really smoke. I hit the beach cause I hate when I choke. I'd rather drink with my friends, now you know. So grab that salt and that lime, we Cuervo. Won't say no more. Just want a small town vacay, summertime getaway. Let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. Road trips, highway, car naps with my face. Just relax, just relax, just relax. It's a vibe, and we ain't really trying to go home. Mood is right, so leave all of your problems at the door. Yeah, promise me we'll never ever leave, and we can wake up here in the morning. It's a vibe, and I ain't really trying to go home, go home. Where's your phone? Give it up, we don't post till we're gone. Live in the now, you can Snapchat at home. Toxic stuff, Twitter thumbs don't wanna know what's going on. 5-star hotel, the jacuzzi's nice. Let's drink champagne and city lights. Catch an Uber ride, go wherever it is we like. Stay by my side, meet some strangers that fit the vibe. Are you cool with that? Yeah, just want a small town vacay, summertime getaway. Let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. Road trips, highway, car naps with my face. Just relax, just relax, just relax. It's a vibe, and we friends at the door. Whoa. Yeah, promise me we'll never ever leave, and we can wake up here in the morning. It's a vibe, and I ain't really trying to go home. Yeah. Roaches Highway.
What was that song called? What was it called?
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
Right on. Where can they find it?
On SoundCloud.com/RXBYN official.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. Awesome song, brother. Love it. Great show. Another awesome show in the can, as they say. We'll see you guys next week. We're out.
How am I bad at clapping right now?